The studio of The View buzzed with anticipation, the warm hum of chatter blending with the clicking of camera shutters. Meghan Markle sat at the sleek glass table, impeccably styled in a tailored cream blazer and understated jewelry, the kind of outfit that whispered, "I'm in control." Her posture was perfect, her smile calculated, her eyes scanning the crowd as if rehearsing her charm. The conversation was moving along smoothly when Whoopi Goldberg, with a mischievous glint in her eye, announced, "We have a very special surprise guest today. Please welcome Her Majesty Queen Camilla." The audience's reaction was instantaneous. Gasps, murmurs, and an eruption of applause that felt more like a sporting event than a talk show. Meghan's practiced smile faltered for a fraction of a second, just enough for the cameras to catch the shift. From backstage, Queen Camilla emerged in a deep royal blue coat dress with a diamond brooch glinting under the studio lights. She walked with deliberate calm, chin slightly raised, her heels clicking against the polished floor in a rhythm that demanded attention. There was no rush, no hesitation, just the quiet authority of a woman who knew she didn't need to prove herself. The camera panned to Meghan, whose eyes widened ever so slightly before narrowing into a polite expression. She reached for her coffee cup, gripping it a little too tightly. The atmosphere in the room had shifted. Even the panelists sat straighter, sensing that the usual morning chatter was about to take a dramatic turn. As Camilla took her seat beside Meghan, the air between them seemed to crackle. No words had been spoken yet, but the audience, and Meghan, could already feel it. This was going to be anything but a friendly segment. The hosts shuffled their cue cards. Nervously, unsure whether to stick to the pre-approved questions or lean into the electricity in the room, Sunny Hostin cleared her throat and asked, something harmless about public service in the modern world. Meghan leaned forward, eager to reclaim control. "I think service today is about being authentic and telling your truth," she said smoothly, flashing her media-trained smile to the audience. Queen Camilla nodded once, slow, deliberate, before answering in her distinctly measured tone. "I've always believed," she began, her voice calm but with a steel edge, "that duty must come before self-interest." Her eyes didn't wander to the hosts or the audience. They stayed locked on Meghan, like a hawk that had just spotted movement in the grass. The audience's murmur was faint but audible. Meghan shifted slightly in her chair, her fingers brushing an invisible speck of lint from her sleeve. "Of course," she said lightly, "I think those ideas can go hand in hand." Camilla's lips curved into a polite smile that somehow carried no warmth. "Sometimes," she replied, "but there's a difference between serving the public and serving one's own image. One mustn't confuse the two." A sharp intake of breath rippled through the audience. Joy Behar raised her eyebrows as if she had just been handed a front-row ticket to a royal duel. The studio lights suddenly felt hotter, and the hum of the cameras seemed louder, as if the entire production team knew they were capturing television gold. Meghan chuckled softly, the sound slightly strained. "Well, I suppose perspectives differ." Camilla, without breaking eye contact, said evenly, "Indeed. And perspectives are often shaped by experience. And accountability." That last word lingered in the air like the echo of a church bell, impossible to ignore. Meghan straightened in her seat, the corners of her smile tightening. The battle had officially begun. The air in the studio felt charged now, like the static before a lightning strike. Meghan crossed her legs and leaned forward, trying to regain her composure. "I think it's important for people to tell their truth," she said, emphasizing there as if to remind Camilla that each person's perspective was valid. She kept her tone light, but her eyes flickered, a brief flash of irritation, breaking through the polished veneer. Camilla's gaze didn't waver. She tilted her head slightly, the way a teacher might when about to correct a student. "Truth," she said softly, "is only valuable when it's paired with accountability. Without it, it becomes little more than gossip." The audience let out an audible "ooh," the kind usually reserved for courtroom dramas or reality TV showdowns. Sunny Hostin glanced toward the producers, silently asking if they should cut to commercial. The producers, smelling ratings gold, gestured for her to keep going. Meghan's lips parted slightly, her smile tightening. "With respect, I don't consider speaking about my experiences to be gossip." Camilla's voice remained calm and almost too calm. "Yet," she said, "those experiences often involve others who are not present to give their side. And in my experience, when one repeatedly chooses to share private matters on public platforms, It ceases to be about healing and starts to be about performance. The last word hit with surgical precision. Joy Behar let out a quiet laugh, quickly covering it with a sip of water. The audience's heads turned back and forth between the two women like spectators at a tennis match. Meghan's shoulders lifted slightly as she drew in a breath. Well, I think sometimes the truth is uncomfortable for people who would rather keep things hidden. Camilla's smile sharpened. And sometimes, she replied, things are kept private not to protect reputations, but to protect dignity. For a moment, the set was silent except for the faint hum of the lights overhead. Meghan's eyes flicked toward the panelists, searching for an ally, but they remained unusually quiet, perhaps unwilling to insert themselves into what had now become a televised royal confrontation. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Even the camera operators seemed to be leaning in closer, eager to capture every flicker of expression. The hosts sat still, caught between fascination and disbelief. Whoopi Goldberg, sensing the mounting drama, tried to steer the conversation. So, Your Majesty, what would you say is the biggest challenge when it comes to being in the royal spotlight? Camilla didn't miss a beat. The challenge, she said, turning slightly toward Meghan, is remembering that royal titles are not shields for bad behavior. They're responsibilities. You carry them for the people, not for yourself. The words landed like a gavel striking wood. Meghan's polite smile froze, her fingers tightening around her coffee cup again. She opened her mouth to speak, but Camilla raised a hand ever so slightly, a subtle, unspoken signal that she wasn't finished. Once you leave the palace gates, Camilla continued, you no longer speak for the crown, but you do speak for yourself, and one's words can either build bridges or burn them. Her tone was low, steady, and deliberate, each phrase measured to perfection. The audience erupted into applause, several members even rising to their feet. Meghan blinked, her jaw tightening as she tried to maintain her composure. She managed a small, tense laugh. I think everyone has a different way of building bridges. Camilla leaned forward, her eyes never leaving Meghan's. Yes, but some bridges aren't meant to be burned just for the sake of a better view. It was the kind of line that didn't just hang in the air. It stuck. The audience gasped, and Joy Behar quietly mouthed, wow. The panelists exchanged glances, all aware they had just witnessed a line destined to live on in viral clips and headlines. Meghan tried to respond, but Camilla's brief, satisfied smile and serene posture made it clear she had already won this round. The applause from Camilla's last remark still echoed through the studio as the show's theme music softly faded in, signaling the end of the segment. Meghan sat perfectly still, her smile frozen like porcelain, beautiful but brittle. A single camera zoomed in on her face, catching the subtle tension in her jaw and the slight narrowing of her eyes. Whoopi, ever the professional, thanked both guests, but even her voice carried a note of awkward amusement. Well, that was certainly enlightening, she said, glancing between them. Camilla rose gracefully from her chair, the studio lights glinting off the diamond brooch on her lapel. She extended a courteous hand toward Meghan, who hesitated for a fraction too long before shaking it. The handshake was polite, but Camilla's grip was firm, almost regal in its authority, before she released it and turned to wave at the audience. Thank you for having me, Camilla said warmly to the hosts, her voice smooth as silk, giving no outward sign of the verbal duel she had just dominated. The audience responded with another round of applause, many on their feet. Meghan remained seated as Camilla walked toward the backstage exit. Her posture perfect, her steps measured. The sound of her heels against the studio floor had a rhythm that felt final. A queen leaving her battlefield victorious. Backstage, crew members exchanged knowing looks. On social media, phones were already buzzing. Short clips of Camilla's pointed remarks were being uploaded, captions screaming, Queen Camilla schools Meghan Markle live on TV. As the cameras cut to commercial, Meghan exhaled slowly, her gaze fixed ahead. Her PR team moved in swiftly, whispering strategy. But in that moment, the damage was done, and everyone in the room knew it. Camilla had not just appeared on The View, she had conquered it.